One of those will have to not suck. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my February reading wrap up. I say this in a lot of videos, but I reckon this one really is going to be short and sweet because I only read 3 books last month, and those books are the second, third and fourth in a series, so I'm limited into what I can actually say about them so that I don't spoil things. Not that any of you watching this are necessarily going to want to read those books. Let me get into this properly. The 3 books I read last month were Girls Under Pressure, Girls Out Late, and then Girls in Tears, all by Jacqueline Wilson. And I actually need to correct myself because in a previous video, which I think would have been my January TBR, I said that the series follows the girls over a period of years, whereas actually it looks like it follows them over a few terms in the same school year. So back to what I was saying about not wanting to give too many spoilers. This series is actually a kids series, and I don't know how many of you watching this video would go on to read these, but just in case you do, I will try and give like a sort of pared down description of each of them. Girls Under Pressure is the second in the series, and within her group of friends, Ellie considers herself to be the least attractive one, and in this book she really struggles with that, and she sort of develops body image issues and an eating disorder. So reading this book as an adult though, there's some aspects of the book that not that I have any experience with eating disorders myself or anything, but I look at and I think that this doesn't seem entirely realistic, and this is where it's going to get a bit spoilery, so if you don't want to know anything, just skip ahead a little bit. So the eating disorder that she develops kind of straddles anorexia and bulimia. Like, I'd say she sort of goes between the two. I don't know too much about eating disorders, but I think you can have both simultaneously. She shows signs of having both of the disorders, and then she almost sort of instantaneously towards the end of the book just like snaps out of it. She sort of falls headfirst into having the disorder and then just as quickly gets over it, so it's all a bit quick. There were also a couple of eyebrow raising moments that I didn't notice the first time around that stood out to me this time, and I feel like if these books were published today, those moments wouldn't go over so well. Like, for instance, there's a moment in Girls Under Pressure where Ellie's dad says that Magda is a good looking girl and basically insinuates that he's attracted to her. Meanwhile, Magda is a 13-year-old child and he is clearly a grown-ass man. It wasn't written in a sinister way or anything, but I did find it weird, not gonna lie. So like I said, Ellie's upset with Nadine and Girls Under Pressure, and this is what her dad says. Just don't break friends with Magda too. She's a really cracking little girl, says dad with a touch too much enthusiasm. Stop bugging Ellie, says Anna sharply, and Magda's young enough to be your daughter. It was just weird, to be honest. The book was written in 1998, and like, not to say that that's a justification or anything, I guess saying something along those lines was just not looked at in the same kind of way that it would be looked at today. As I was reading these books, I definitely felt like I was way too old for them, and I definitely am. I read them purely for the nostalgia, I'll be honest. And I wouldn't say I regret reading these or anything, but reading them as an adult definitely took away some of the magic, because there was a time when I was obsessed with these books as a child. Looking at them now and reading them as an adult, I didn't quite like, the same feelings weren't elicited, and I found them just to be kind of okay, to be honest. But like I said, I attribute that more to my age, I think, than the books themselves. Overall, I'd say each book sits kind of around a 3 or a 3.5, except Girls in Tears, which I feel like was just kind of unnecessary, to be honest. That's the 4th book in the series, and I feel like it should have ended at Girls Out Late, because Girls in Tears, I don't think it really does much for the story. I just kind of feel like Girls in Tears didn't need to happen, and Russell is just incredibly annoying and sleazy. And Russell just brings down the tone of the series, to be honest. Another thing to say about Girls Under Pressure actually is that because it deals with Ellie having body image issues and thinking she's fat, and because she's also the narrator, parts of it get very repetitive and kind of boring. Another thing as well is that the books are written like for teenagers. On the back it says for teenage readers, but the writing style and the situations that the characters find themselves in don't quite match up. Like, I feel like there's a disconnect there. For example, like Ellie could be talking about something and describe it as boring, and then be talking about snogging her boyfriend, and it just sort of doesn't line up. It seems like the language and the writing style is very juvenile, but the situations that they find themselves in are more adult. So that kind of felt like a mismatch. And also in Girls Out Late specifically, they find themselves in a lot of situations that just seem really dramatic and over the top, and sort of like, how did you find yourself in this situation? But then everything sort of wraps up neatly, and it's like, it's just a touch unrealistic, I think is the word I'm looking for. And also in Girls Out Late, they have a lot of freedom for 13-year-olds. Like, I don't know, I guess it was a different time again, but I don't know. And again, back to Russell, he first makes an appearance in Girls Out Late. Ellie is so excited that there's a guy who shows interest in her rather than her two friends that she really can't see that he ain't nothing to write home about. He's sleazy and creepy, and honestly I feel like age gaps are pretty minor when you get to a certain age, but I feel like a 16-year-old boy showing interest in a 13-year-old girl will never not be weird to me. It just doesn't sit right, man. It just doesn't sit right. And also in Girls in Love, actually, when Nadine and whatever his Liam, I think that's his name, in the first book, they're 13 in that one as well, and he's 17, and it's just weird. It's very predatory to me and I don't quite like it. With all of that being said, I do feel like these books are still a good introduction to more adult topics for girls of a younger age, like sort of around the preteens, and at the very least hopefully can get a conversation started. Before rereading this series, I was definitely looking at it with rose-tinted glasses. It's lost some of its magic for me, for sure. On reflection, they're definitely not my favourite books that Jacqueline Wilson has written. I do think they still have their place though. So that's that. That is my February reading wrap up, and these are the 3 books again that I read this month. I really like the covers more than anything. I think they look really good together. Alright, that is the end of today's video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. There should be a button on the screen for you to do so, somewhere around here or here. Also, if you feel like checking out some more of my content, there should be some suggestions about here, and in one of these top corners. I don't just do book videos on this channel, I do hauls, reviews, makeup videos, the occasional vlog. Check those out if any of that sounds interesting to you. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Our main character Ellie is dealing with self-body and what's this? I'm gonna use up all my recording space just babbling, honey.